On this episode of the Red and Gold Report, we're going to be breaking down the Chiefs' win against the Packers. We're going to be updating you on a bunch of recent Chiefs news, and we're going to be looking forward to the upcoming game against the Raiders. So let's get started with the storyline of the Chiefs' victory against the Packers. And actually, well, it was more that the Packers lost than that the Chiefs won. With All-Pro Aaron Rodgers out of the game for the Packers with COVID in the first half of his first NFL start, second-year Packers backup quarterback Jordan Love looked about as prepared as I was for my college biology final. Yeah, that didn't go well. The Packers also beat themselves with horrific special teams play. I mean, it collapsed quicker than a cheerleader pyramid if it had Orlando Brown on top. That included a missed field goal, a blocked field goal, and a turnover on a punt, all in the first half. So even though the Chiefs squandered some opportunities in the first half on offense, well, they found themselves up 13-0. Things did not change much in the second half, where the Packers backup QB continued to look as ready to play as I am ready to be on a high fashion runway modeling circuit. Sure, you know what? I would go out there, but nobody wants to see that. Adding to their woes, the Packers then had a few crushing first down erasing penalties. So even though the Chiefs offense never got started, by the time we were watching them in the victory formation, well, the game kind of sputtered to an uninspiring, ugly finish with the Chiefs on top 13-7. Even though the Packers had outgained the Chiefs 301 yards to 237. So yeah, the Chiefs won. That's awesome. Go Chiefs. But really, it was more of a story of the Rodgers-less Packers losing. And hey, really quick, if you want to get weekly Chiefs news and insights, then take just a second to hit that subscribe button, that like button, all the buttons, all that good stuff right here on the Red and Gold Report. So who particularly played well for the Chiefs this Sunday afternoon in the victory? Well, I gotta give the MVP, and this is the first time I've ever done this, gotta give the MVP to the punter. Yes, the punter. Chiefs punter Tommy Townsend had some booming punts, but the most impressive part of his game was, well, by my count, he pinned the Packers within their 10-yard line 3 different times. He pinned them within their 20-yard line 5 different times. I mean, his effort dominated the field position game for the Chiefs, particularly with an offense that was struggling. That was so important. Andy Reid later said that it was Tommy Townsend's best day as a pro. I would agree, and I think he actually had the best day of anyone out there on the field. And you know what? Really, the entire special teams unit was pretty great for the Chiefs on Sunday. Also a positive, newly traded for defensive end Melvin Ingram provided an asset in his first game. Ingram was a better presence at end than what the Chiefs had previously been fielding this season. Yeah, sure, he only had 2 pressures. That's not phenomenal by any stretch of the imagination. But the huge bonus was that with Melvin Ingram at defensive end, Chris Jones was able to primarily move back to his natural position of defensive tackle, where he had been an All-Pro for years. Now, that move was rewarded with Jones creating 5 pressures from defensive tackle on the day. So, like I've been ranting about for months, adding just a decent edge rusher improved 2 key positions for the Chiefs defense, and it paid out on Sunday. Sure, defensive end is better, but we also get our all-pro defensive tackle back. Also a big positive in the game was Creed Humphrey, Orlando Brown, and Joe Thuney on offensive line. They were just plain excellent in pass protection. The 3 combined for an allowed 0 sacks for the day, and were only beaten twice by defenders in pass protection for the entire game. Cornerback L'Jarius Sneed also had a fantastic game with a good interception in the fourth quarter. Looked like an incredible athlete, because he is. And then not long after, he deflected a pass in the end zone on a long throw. It was a good game for him. On the other side, Charvarius Ward also had a good outing at corner, only allowing 2 receptions. Also a big positive, the Chiefs had been leading the league in turnovers heading into this game, but had 0 on Sunday afternoon. So those were the positives of the night for the Chiefs, and it's why they won. But that brings us to some of the Chiefs that struggled on Sunday. And you know what? We gotta admit something, okay? Had the Chiefs played like they played on Sunday, and had Aaron Rodgers been in the game, the Chiefs don't win the game. Like, they just don't. They didn't play that well. So we gotta talk about the offense. Even with a great field position handed to them throughout the night, the Chiefs offense only put up 13 points. The offense had more 3-and-outs than in all the previous games combined this season. Like, what in the world was wrong with them? Well, we got to mention the offensive play calling. I mean, the opening drive was great. The Chiefs ran the ball effectively, and that drive alone took nearly 8 minutes off the clock. But after that success, the Chiefs, they just couldn't commit to the run, which seemed like a pretty silly and obvious mistake. Receiver Mecole Hardman also struggled for the game with a few dropped passes, a muffed punt, and this weird shove that easily could have been called a penalty. Backup right tackle Andrew Wiley, filling in partway through the game, also struggled mightily with a sack, a penalty, and he was beaten 6 times by defenders in pass protection. Mahomes had an off night as well, throwing for only 166 yards and a 54% completion rating. I mean, he just wasn't his usually accurate self. Now, over on defense, coming back from injury, Anthony Hitchens did not play particularly well, including a botched coverage in the second quarter that wasn't good, and a pass interference in the fourth quarter that kept a Packers drive going, and Daniel Sorensen also didn't play well, including a embarrassing missed tackle that allowed the only points, the only touchdown for the Packers during the game. You kind of got to wonder how long the coaches have before the other players, they just kind of don't want to go out there with them anymore. I mean, it's beyond struggling. So those were the negatives for the game for the Chiefs. With that game in the books, we're going to turn to the news in Chiefs Kingdom this week, starting with last week. Former Chiefs Pro Bowl center Tim Grunhard was inducted into the Ring of Honor for the Chiefs at halftime against the Giants. Grunhard was with the Chiefs 11 years, appearing in 169 games. He was a gritty, hard-nosed, no-nonsense mauler, great leader who I loved watching at Arrowhead growing up in the 90s. He is totally deserving, and he was a fantastic Kansas City Chiefs player for those 1990s Schottenheimer teams. Also in big Chiefs news, right at the trade deadline last week, the Chiefs traded for edge pass rusher Melvin Ingram. The Chiefs sent a 6th-round pick to the Steelers, who had recently signed Ingram. However, Ingram was not happy with the playing time with the Steelers. He wanted off the team. Chiefs fans are familiar with Ingram as a longtime Charger and a former first-round pick for that team. I love this move. This was one of the exact moves that I was hoping for and talking about on this channel for weeks. Also, in other Chiefs trade news, another trade at the trade deadline last week, the Chiefs traded former starting guard, the good doctor, Duvernay-Tardif, to the Jets for backup tight end Daniel Brown. Now, honestly, I would have guessed the Chiefs could have gotten more value for a guard with that much starting experience, but in another way, he clearly wasn't in the team's plans moving forward, and the last time that he was a starter was in the 2019 season, so you gotta take what you can get. Also in Chiefs news, you gotta watch the injury situation at right tackle. With starter Mike Rimmers out with a knee injury for this last game, backup Lucas Niang, who had previously been the starter, was inserted back into the lineup. But early in the game, Niang went out with a ribs injury. Andrew Wiley entered the game, but he was awful. So it's going to be really important for Niang and Rimmers to get healthy by next week. Also in Chiefs news, Andy Reid moved into 5th place for the most regular season wins by a head coach in the NFL with 226. So congrats to Andy. With that news done, we're going to turn to next week where the Chiefs are going to face the Raiders this Sunday night on prime time. Now, without going into too much detail here, the Raiders have had a horrific stretch lately. Head coach John Gruden resigned mid-season amidst an enormous controversy. Wide receiver Henry Ruggs was just in a tragically fatal DUI accident, got released by the team. They just lost to a bad Giants team. They are reeling. It's interesting. 2 weeks ago, the Chiefs defeated a bad Giants team that was missing their 2 best offensive players. This week, the Chiefs just defeated a Packers team without their best player, MVP Aaron Rodgers. And now the Chiefs are about to play a Raiders team that is absolutely reeling. Now, hopefully this means that we're going to sneak away with a 3-week winning streak even while we're not playing particularly well. That does it for this week. Remember to like and subscribe, all that good stuff, to this channel. Thanks for watching. Go Chiefs!